Hello, you're watching Global Insight, where we speak to experts from around the world on issues making headlines. I'm Also Young. Now, millions of Americans have voted in the midterm elections in the United States, deciding who will control the chambers of legislature. And as of Thursday morning Korea time, the Republicans are projected to win the House, but by a much slimmer margin than expected. The Senate results may take weeks to come through, as the race in Georgia will go to a runoff in December. And as exit polls are declared, the rest of the world is also watching, as American voters matter in the shaping of their country's foreign policy. Now, losing control of Congress would enable the Republicans to block President Joe Biden's key initiatives more easily, and the growing attention on the next race for the White House may keep Joe Biden's focus at home rather than on foreign affairs. Today, we discuss trade issues dwelling on the minds of US allies and how they could be impacted by the course of American politics. For this, we're joined by Dr. Stephen Noerper, President of the Asia Dialogue and Adjunct Research Scholar at Columbia University, and Dr. Songdae Cho, Director of the Center for Trade Studies and Cooperation at Korea International Trade Association. A very warm welcome to you both. Thank you for joining us. And well, Dr. Noerper, it's been quite an evening, quite a day for you over in America. And well, first, your take, please, on the outcome of the elections as we're seeing it. Of course, we haven't got the full results yet, but we do see that the Democrats are doing much better than expected, though the Republicans are still looking likely to gain a majority in the House.
Yes, Soo-young, you're absolutely right. It does seem to be that the Democrats are faring better. So-called red tsunami did not happen, meaning the Republicans did not take large numbers. It means that you will have a fairly divided Capitol Hill, meaning it will be fairly close. The House does typically shift at the midterm election, so it will shift to the Republicans. And the Senate, we will have to wait and see, and you're correct to say it looks like it may largely come down to Georgia in a few weeks' time. So it will be interesting to see how it consolidates. With the new House Speaker, foreign policy basically concentrated on his comment around Ukraine and no blank check, which raised some eyebrows because this has been a largely bipartisan issue. But on other issues, we will have to see where it comes out, and it is largely a domestic election where economy and social issues have been more important than foreign policy, but clearly it will have some impact on foreign policy. Thank you.
Right, and Dr. Noerper, the biggest focus of US politics right now does seem to be inflation and energy costs. And well, how do you think this is really going to determine President Joe Biden's foreign policy priorities in the months to come?
Well, it's very clear that coming out of the pandemic, energy and inflation are huge issues, as they are in many countries globally. So guaranteeing access and striking at better economic realities will be absolutely critical for the Biden administration. It will be part of his legacy, and should he decide to run again, it will be very key to his success in moving forward in 2024. And of course, the Republicans will pick up on those issues. Expect Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who will be in a tight race, most likely with former President Donald Trump, to pick up on issues like that. And I think you will see the Republicans seize on it. But it didn't cause the type of impact that some people felt, that inflation would mean that Biden would do very poorly in this election. So perhaps some of the economic numbers and a fairly strong U.S. economy in general have played to the president's favor.
And Director Cho, while for US's friends like South Korea and countries in the European Union, they've been quite hard hit by some economic initiatives such as the Inflation Reduction Act. And these countries have been hoping that the Biden administration might adjust some of its industrial policies that would hurt their companies in the US market. And well, do you see any chance of that moving forward?
First of all, I'd like to tell you that there is no US congressman who passes a bill for Korean or European companies and workers. The 118th Congress, in which the Republican Party will lead at least House of Representatives, will work and pass bills to support U.S. industry and U.S. economy. The difference is the GOP considers business interests more than workers or labor unions' interest. Having that in mind and recalling there was unsatisfying voice from some Republican congressmen after the IRA was passed, I think there will be more chances for the Congress to review or rethink some issues of IRA and hopefully revise some provisions. But once again, this midterm election doesn't guarantee any tremendous or fundamental change to U.S. industrial policy benefiting foreign companies. Regarding the IRA and consultation between Seoul and Washington, as far as I know, the Korean government has been urging the correction of discriminatory factors in the IRA to Biden administration and Congress. And also Korean business has been delivered some concerns and hope for any change to benefit both Korean and U.S. economists. Last week, Korea International Trade Association submitted an opinion on the guidance of implementation of the IRA to Treasury. Its main idea are that companies and products from allies such as Korea should be treated equally to American companies and products. And at least some companies which are investing to the U.S. with U.S. government support should have some benefits.
I see, and I believe the EU has also voiced its concerns to Washington as well. And Dr. Nurpa, I wanted your opinion on this as well. Do you see any discussion of the any adjustments to the Inflation Reduction Act going forward? I mean, hopes weren't very high, but there was still, a little bit of hope, I suppose.
Sure. I doubt we'll see major change. I would agree with the last assertion, but I think we should emphasize, and the Korean government is quite right to emphasize, that this is counterintuitive to trying to underscore the importance of alliances, and that Korea-U.S. alliance is extremely important. The Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement, which was largely facilitated by the then U.S. Korean ambassador to the United States, now the Prime Minister, Han Duck-soo, really did lead to a lot of positive benefits for the United States, a lot of Korean investment in the U.S., which means a lot of jobs. So I think a rethink is necessary, and clearly to compromise relations with both Korea and the European Union at a time where you need their support, given concerns about China, given concerns about Russia's aggression in Ukraine, is all the more important. So it's something that we should urge some reconsideration of, and it is unfair to impact that, especially when ultimately it creates supply chains that are in the U.S. national interest, as well as the national interest of Korea and those in the European Union.
I see. And well, Director Cho, now we're looking at the results of the midterm elections coming up. But of course, the big concern here is the 2024 presidential election. And some are looking at a potential Donald Trump return. And do you think that's going to mean continued protectionism in the US? I mean, should firms investing in America really prepare for such risks in the long run?
Yes, during COVID pandemic and global value chain disruption, we observed the way of protect to domestic industry and its export heavily changed. And since 1995, WTO was established, countries have imposed or raised tariffs as protecting measures. Anti-dumping duties, countervailing duties, safeguard tariff and quota, something like that. But the government found out that some tariffs were not enough to protect their industries, so they started to subsidize and foster their industries, recover their competitiveness, and rebuild their own supply chain eventually. I cannot predict whether Mr. Trump will run for the president after 2 years, but I can say the U.S. president and his cabinet and the U.S. Congress will try to strengthen their industry until they don't regard China as a threat to U.S. economy and security. For the time being, companies investing to the U.S. will benefit from a robust government support. It is already happening. Korean chip makers and EV battery makers got large promotion for their huge investment. I think there will be more bills and programs like Chips and Science Act and Inflation Reduction Act.
And well, you mentioned China there, Director Cho, and well, with US-China tensions set to continue in the foreseeable future, and that's going to subsequently create this bifurcation of the world economy. What course of action then should South Korea's chip makers, in particular, major determinants of Korea's exports, how should they really change their course of, I guess, business or production over the months to come?
Well, it is a very difficult question to answer. Korea's investment to the U.S. is to increase significantly as the U.S. has rebuilt its will to reorganize or revitalize its semiconductor supply chain through various legislative, administrative policies, such as CHIPS and Science Act, as I said earlier. China has also been aggressively investing in chasing technology while promoting semiconductor independence in all areas of semiconductor process, including design, production, and materials and equipment. It is a harsh moment for Korean chip makers, since China is Korea's largest semiconductor export market. I mean, almost 40% of Korea's semiconductors export going to China. And both US and China are Korea's important trading partners. U.S. government seems to hold a carrot and stick right now, I think. But it is also true that U.S. economy needs vibrant Korean chip makers' investment and their products. And also China needs Korean chips too. So I'm not an economist, so I cannot tell you when global economy will get back to the next growth period. But when you go deep, you know that the time to rebound is coming soon. So Korean chip makers should look at closely policy change in not only in the U.S. but also in China's, and be prepared for the next golden era.
And Dr. Nawape, well, there's growing concern among US ally countries over, well, the American electorate and how their preferences are going to shape your foreign policy going ahead. And, well, this adds to concern over whether America will continue to be the world's public goods provider and whether its focus is on security or economic relations. So do you think people in Washington are aware of this, and do you think they're really working on this to sort of allay their concerns?
Well, they're generally aware of it, but probably not to the degree that they need to be. There's heavy partisanship in Washington, as there is in Seoul, and this is a time of great political divisions. It does require some bipartisanship, and President Biden was the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and a longtime senator. He knows about working across the aisle. And we also have to remember that as of this moment, it seems that Donald Trump had a setback. Several of his candidates did not emerge victorious in this election. Ron DeSantis, who will take on Trump, had a 20-point victory margin in Florida, and we have to wait and see where he is. We don't know really where foreign policy, et cetera, comes out, but it will be interesting to see relative to what will be a narrower foreign policy window where economic concerns and issues we've discussed like energy will become the dominant issues, where supply chains will need to continue to be diversified, especially given concerns about China, and where there should be an appreciation for Korea's lead as it has excellence in that production area. It's a generation ahead of China, and those may be small generations in terms of years, but they're very important in terms of technology. So again, a close U.S.-Korea relationship that melds some of those economic interests and is conscious of the security concerns in and around the peninsula with China, and more globally where we see aggressors like Russia active on Ukraine. So establishing energy security, economic security, and peace and conflict resolution all need to be at the fore of U.S. foreign policy.
I see. And Director Cho, while South Korea isn't part of the CPTPP, and it's working on the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, a US-led initiative here in the Indo-Pacific, of course, but there's still some uncertainty and doubt over how it's really going to take effect. And what kind of progress do you think is really needed to move it ahead and really incentivize partners to this framework to build up this new economic order in the region?
Although the IPEF shows the direction of the new international trade order that at least the Biden administration are trying to lead, it is true that participating countries lack incentive to agree on high-level regulation in various emerging areas such as labor, climate change, and clean energy and taxation that the U.S. expects, because it does not contain any tariff negotiations. I mean market opening provisions within the IPEF. This morning we talked about U.S. midterm election, and when you look at IPEF negotiation and the election, we must take a close look. IPEF negotiation is not like other trade agreement negotiation in the sense, not only that it does not deal with market opening, but also there is no trade promotion authority granting bill and process in the Congress. The Republican Party is not satisfied with this situation, so I wonder House of Representatives led by the GOP would make any change to IPEF negotiation in near future. Going back to the incentives for emerging countries, maybe including Korea, whatever the method is, it is my opinion that there must be some incentive must be prepared for each issue, such as supply chain stabilization. So I mean, the more the participating opportunity or the chance to make their own supply chain stability, and digital economy, and also the decarbonization. So those issues should be kind of symbols for the emerging countries participate in the IPEF negotiation as incentives.
Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up our discussion here today, but that was Stephen Noah, President of Asia Dialogue at Columbia University, and Jo Song-dae, Director at the Korea International Trade Association. Thank you both so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Soo-young.
Thank you very much to our viewers for tuning in. Global Insight will be back on Friday, South Korea time at 9:30 a.m. Do tune in then, and wherever you are in the world, have a great day.